Mointe Moleko, a music producer and also an active member of the Lesotho Civil Society.
I am a lawyer, a human rights activist, and a mental health activist.
Okay, sexual harassment is very relative. I mean, things that could be said to me or done to me that could make me flinch, things that could be said to you or the next person that, and then they could have a completely different reaction. I heard on the radio a couple of weeks ago. So this woman was narrating, telling us of how she was in a 4+1, and she was sitting at the front. So taxi and 4+1 driver and Anna at the front. And so she tells the 4+1 driver that she's about to get off. This man decides to now put his hands up her skirt and starts feeling on her thighs. And I mean, he felt, I have the right to do this because I own your body, and he knew that there are no repercussions because, I mean, that woman just called in and it was a discussion on radio, and that's where it ended.
Sexual harassment involves any form of advance that is not welcome, that leads to or suggests sexual intercourse. The most common examples of sexual harassment, especially where men are victims, you find that young men are taken advantage of by older women.
Yes, sexual harassment is a criminal matter. It's more like a gateway drug. It leads to more horrendous acts of violence against women. Unfortunately, I don't think it's looked at in that way in this country. Maybe there's legislation, but practically it's really not looked at in that manner.
It is a criminal matter. There are pieces of legislation in place that actually address this issue. There's the Sexual Offences Act of 2003, which tried to redefine things that were not covered by laws that existed before that one.
Sexual harassment is only ever defined in the labor law, under the labor code, section 200. It speaks mostly about offering employment or threatening to dismiss somebody because they fail to offer sexual favors. In some workplaces, there are actually strip searches, and it only talks about strip searches being carried out. It defines sexual harassment as strip searches being carried out by a member of the opposite sex to, when somebody of the opposite sex carries a strip search over you. But as we talked about LGBTI dynamics, there's also a person who can actually be transgendered. Strip searching somebody of the opposite gender, but the law, we find that it doesn't address that. A woman who is physically a woman but identifies themselves as a man, strip searching another woman, we still find that our law is inadequate in that area. The Sexual Offences Act defines sexual act to mean direct or indirect contact with the anus, breast, penis, buttocks, thighs or vagina of one person, and any part of the body of another person. So we find how broad the definition actually is, and it doesn't confine itself to basically the workplace. As we said, that our law only defines sexual harassment within the labor laws.
Sexual harassment doesn't just occur between men and women. It's as long as we have a group that is deemed as vulnerable and we have a group that is deemed as superior.
It's not just men harassing women. It can happen the other way around. It can also happen within the same sex. It's only a matter of dominance. Whoever's in power can use that to their advantage.
There's no typical harasser because sexual harassment is so subjective, it's very relative. So like I said before, that something could be done to me or said to me that could cause me to flinch. The same thing could be said to someone else and they could have a completely different reaction to it. So I've probably sexually harassed someone without being aware.
I don't think we can really say that there's a profile to a typical harasser. It can be anyone. It can happen anywhere. And it's even interesting because sometimes it's not even about the power dynamics. We could be drinking, could get out of line. I mean, you could be the one in power. I could be the one that can be dominated, but I can end up harassing you. As long as I do anything that's not welcome.
You know, the studies have shown that there are certain people who have certain propensities, you know, towards certain behavior, but I can't really say whether there is or there isn't an actual profile to a sexual harasser.
Practical steps to reduce or in fact to raise awareness or educate about sexual harassment. Okay, in the workplace, I'm going to quote a statistic that I'm not really sure about. I'm not sure if I'm the one who's quoting or if it's one of those dodgy Hannah statistics. It says that for every dollar a man makes, a woman makes 77 cents, even though they hold the same position at work. So that speaks directly to that notion that our society values masculinity over femininity. So if we balanced that out, if we had equal pay, the message would be, as a woman, you're as valued in our organization. Therefore, that power dynamic would sort of, I mean, the scales would tip, so there'd be some sort of balance. I mean, this is assuming that majority of perpetrators of sexual harassment are men.
I think the most practical way we can raise awareness in the context of Lesotho, simply integrate this into the life skills curriculum, you know. That's in the formal setting. Another way could be through community education, you know, usually holding public gatherings out in the districts. And thirdly, it could be through the media.
As a community worker, I think our traditional public gatherings are some of the ways in which we could teach the community, especially because Basotho tend to be so, they're not too much open about talking about sexuality. So I think those are the settings, especially in the rural areas. You find that women are not as outspoken or can actually voice their displeasure at being sexually harassed. No boundaries really. Churches making it part of the sermon, because you find sexual harassment in the unlikeliest places. You can find it in church, being done by priests and pastors, and you know, it's places. It becomes even shameful to talk about it even in those settings, because priests are always so revered by the community they lead.
I don't think we should have a spectrum for sexual harassment, that okay, certain things are a bit minor, so we should just disregard them, and then some sexual harassment offenses are more serious, therefore we should put a focus on them. For me, I'm very particular about my personal space. So the minute you're here, like already alarm bells are going off. So again, we're talking about the relativity of it. So for me, even a hug, sometimes when I have dreadlocks, people feel they can just touch their men, especially, and they start caressing your hair. It's like, no. So for me, it's just the minute you enter into a particular sphere, like a 20 centimeter radius within my body, that's a problem, especially if I don't know you. In our culture, we don't understand the concept of personal space. So sometimes even telling somebody that you are in my personal space falls on deaf ears because we just don't get it. So, but usually what I do, I just tell you, no, if you want to give me a hug, I'll be like, you know, I hold my hand out, rather shake my hand, it's less invasive.
I think that it's simply when you feel violated, that is where you draw the line. I mean, as relative as it is, you could be violated by something that someone says, which is the same as something that someone else can say, but you wouldn't be violated in both instances. So as long as you feel violated, that's where the line should be drawn.
About drawing the line, our laws always talk about what is deemed appropriate within that community. But we have the Sexual Offences Act, which talks about contact with any part of any person's body. And I think consent is always a crucial aspect when it comes to any sexual contact. So I believe it should be more a subjective test rather than an objective community perspective.